Thank God it's Friday. Hello and thank you for joining the last edition of Journalist Hangout this week. I'm Ayodele Ozuwakon. Let's begin by saying happy World Press Freedom Day to our colleagues and audience worldwide. Today on the program, House of Representatives invite President Buhari for interface over frightening insecurity. 178 members elect adopt Femi GBAJABIAMILA as Speaker of the Ninth House of Representatives. And later on the show, President Buhari advised journalists on ethics, fake news on World Press Day as safety of newsmen comes under focus. I'll be hanging out with Dari Odufowokon, Wale ADEOYE, and BOLA OLAJUWON. So if you are ready, let us hang out.
All across the country, particularly
if one consider the spate of insurgency and banditry and kidnapping ravaging Nigeria states like Borno, Zamfara, KATSINA, and Kaduna, then it won't be far-fetched. It won't be far-fetched to say the country is sliding into dictatorship of brigandage. Sadly, one of the hotbeds of insecurity, KATSINA, is the home of the president. The worsening state of insecurity in the country has attracted the attention of members of the House of Representatives after a motion by a member from KATSINA, AHMED, DAYYABU. The lawmaker invited President Buhari to appear before them for interface over the frightening insecurity in the country. Let's get the gist from the National Assembly correspondent, that's Joke Adisa.
All across the country, particularly the northern region, cases of banditry, armed robbery, and kidnapping have become more prominent than ever. The recent abduction of a traditional ruler in Daura, President Buhari's domain, is one cause for concern for these legislators. AHMED DAYYABU from Katsina State says lives are being taken on a daily basis by heavily armed bandits who have now allegedly taken over 4 local governments in his constituency. He wants a state of emergency declared.
It happened just yesterday. The people that were killed day before yesterday, 12 of them, the dead bodies were found in the bush, and the villagers or their brothers or relatives wanted to give them a befitting burial in the morning, but on reaching the graveyard, the villagers sighted at the bandits again, planning to come and launch another fresh attack. So they had to run away, leave the dead body, and leave the graveyard.
The gallery.
Members extensively contributed to the debate, worrying over the spate of insecurity in the country.
There's so many conversations on social media platforms about the fact that Nigeria is descending into anarchy.
Foreign direct investment that will require is now being jeopardized because no investor will bring his resources to a country where there is no security.
There is need for the government to come off with a deliberate policy of investing a lot in agriculture by way of training and empowerment of our youth and women that constitute 70% of our population.
Mr. President is out of the country right now, and we expect him back anytime soon. But the bottom line is that what would the House of Representatives achieve by summoning Mr. President to appear in person?
Well, what has been happening these past few weeks, quite unfortunate. What happened in Daura, Katsina State, and in Adamawa, where people were killed. It caused for a lot of worry. But this is the second time the House of Representatives is asking the president to come and address the House. It happened the president was supposed to be there on April 11, and then this was the second request. Well, there's nothing wrong with the House of Rep.
They have the rights.
Yeah, they have the right. They can ask the president to come and address them on the state of insecurity in the country. But then, we should ask ourselves, after the address, what happens? Then what is the motive of the invitation? Was it born out of genuine interest to deal with the problem of insecurity? Was that the only option available for the House of Rep in dealing with the situation at hand? If you look at that parliament, the people there are less than 100, less than 1/3, out of 360 people. To discuss a very critical issue at a very critical moment, how many people are in that house? Beyond that, when that demand was put into voice vote, the NASS, who didn't want the president to come, were actually in the majority, but the speaker overruled them. So we need to be convinced that this invitation is born out of genuine interest of the people and not just another media opportunism. Because the House of Rep could also take several other steps apart from inviting the president. The IG will be appearing, in that house on Tuesday. So, there's a House Committee on Security that we think should visit Katsina State, even if it's to console with the victims of violence. There could be a kind of joint session of the House Committee on Security between the House of Rep and the Senate. So inviting the president is not the only step, knowing fully well that the president is not in the country at this moment. So we hope that the House of Rep will treat this issue dispassionately and not just to treat it as another seeking political fortune, because the House is going to round up very soon and everybody is trying to create attention just for parochial interest.
Dari, do you think there's any correlation between the fact that we've just finished the election? Somebody was saying it this morning that most of these politicians, they armed a lot of their thugs, and it's a fallout of what we're seeing now. That's why the banditry and the crime rate is in like all-time high.
I want to say it's beyond that.
Okay.
It's beyond that. And the earlier I've read something like that too, quite a number of it. And the earlier we stop politicizing this insecurity issue, the better for all of us. Because if every time we have this on the high side, what we quickly want to say is to put it down to politics or politicking. It is not good for us. Before the election, the insurgency was there in the northeast, uncurtailed. The military was there, battling it, making some progress, losing some grounds. And then banditry, that many people will tell you is new in our lexicon, was actually, the Zamfara issue has been on for over 3 years. It may not have been at this stage, but it was there. The issue of groups, gangs, clashing over territory in Zamfara has been on for over 2 years. However, I think it is actually better for us to put it down to our inability to react as quick as necessary to serious issues. And that's what will take me to what you just said, where you said we should be conscious of the intention of the House of Reps. Well, like I said before, I will want both parties, the presidency and the House of Reps, that's the legislature, not to politicize this issue. But in my own opinion, the president should go and face them. They have every right to invite him. And why shouldn't he be invited? Let's look at it this way. I would have thought that with these issues of insecurity, Mr. President should have met with the legislators of these seriously affected areas before now. Oh, you are from Borno, come. What can we do about Borno? What are actually the issues? Then the issue started in Kaduna, Kajuru, Southern Kaduna. I would want to have read that, oh, Mr. President met with lawmakers from these axis. And then talking about the National Assembly, what have they done before? We've read severally of committees from the National Assembly visiting scenes of attacks. Obviously, they went back to their offices and wrote some reports. What became of those reports? They are here to tell us that, oh, we came up with this report, we forwarded it to the president. They've not said that. The president is here to tell us that I received some advices or suggestions from the legislature. I think when they both meet, in public now. If and only if the legislators, the lawmakers does not see this as an opportunity for political brickbatting. Because you can't rule that out. I won't rule that out totally, that they are not seeking an opportunity to sort of publicly whitewash the president. But that would serve no purpose. Rather, let the country, let Nigerians for once see our arms of government sitting down. Let them ask Mr. President questions, and he should also ask them questions. You are a legislator. This thing is happening in your own territory too. Have you ever written to me or to any of the agencies of government to suggest ways by which we can curtail the violence in your own area? Let the two arms of government for once sit down, and let we Nigerians get to see the thinking of the two arms, as well as how well they have worked together to solve what has become a major problem.
Bola,
That's how I see it.
Bola, it seems from Zamfara to Katsina to Borno to Adamawa, the spate of violence has overwhelmed the security agencies.
Yes, it's quite unfortunate that this is actually happening. And it's also alarming that we are going to this level. You know, before Mr. President came, the issue of insurgency was restricted, you know, to the northeast. But unfortunately, we're having that, you know, in northwest, north central. And also, if you look at it again, you know, we are also having issue of insurgency in the southeast, in the manner of herdsmen attacking farmers and things like that. And if you also look at it, the Niger Delta issue, because if you look at Ondo, about 5 wells, according to the locals, they said they just had explosion. Then what is happening? Though Chevron came out to say that the area belonged to them, and they are trying to tackle the explosion. Not only that, if you look at it, that the police, they launch Operation Puff Harder. So also to tackle this issue of banditry. Look, if we say bandits, insurgent, Boko Haram, please, don't let us look or try to create a kind of political nomenclature for them. The situation at hand is terrible. We need to declare total emergency on it. Because military option, or military operations, they've not created the required impact to tackle what is at hand. Now, if I want to touch on the issue of inviting the president, they have the right to invite the president. But according to what the first speaker, said, have they tried as much as possible to exploit all the required options they have? They can as well invite the Minister for Defense. What about, the Chief of Army Staff, Chief of Air Staff, and you see, I sympathize with Mr. President, because you see, the issue of KATSINA shouldn't have even come in, as if the people said they want to disgrace him. That is my take. And to the level of kidnapping the district head of Daura is a terrible situation. Also look at what is happening around. They've not been able to find, answer to the issue of, the people attacking Narekpo. And we also have
other... Are they still there?
Yes, they come and go. Yes. Look, you see, it is a total despicable situation. But they shouldn't play to the gallery by inviting Mr. President, and then if Mr. President even come at all, let me use the word, come at all, he will come, address them, and then he will go. See, to me as a person, the issue, if I want to, personal opinion, they just want to disgrace him. They want the eyes of the world to be on him. Yeah, come and tell us what is happening in your native area. this happened, the other one happened, so that it will start explaining what will come out of the explanation. That is the issue.
Wale, preferring solutions, looking at how best. Mr. President has not changed his service chiefs in the last 4 years. Our security architecture, a lot of people feel that it's time we start looking at it with a view of tweaking it.
Yeah. Well, Nigeria is not the only country where you have insecurity. In fact, a few weeks ago, there was a worst incident in Sri Lanka where about 250 people were killed. So we could learn from what happened in that country. In less than 24 hours, the 9 suicide bombers were identified. The backgrounds of the attackers, the schools they attended, their parents, their relations, their friends. Less than 24 hours. And in less than 72 hours, the president asked the defense secretary to resign and the police chief to go. But in our own situation here, when this kind of thing happened, you are not able to identify the people that are responsible. Because we don't have a database where we keep tab on Nigerians. If you want to enter Togo, one of our neighbors here, from the airport, they will take your fingerprints. So if you are an armed robber, you are escaping from Nigeria, you are going to Togo. If you get to Togo, Interpol can trace you. But if you are coming from Togo, entering Nigeria, right at the airport, nobody takes any record of your entrance. And the borders are so porous. Nigeria is almost a borderless country where people come from all over the world, Chad, Niger. Look at what the NCC just said about 93 SIMs that you can't identify their owner. But when you want to go and register for a SIM card, they take your fingerprints. But what happens to those things? It means it's not real. 93 million SIMs. Yes. Yeah. So it means those when you go to the computer and they collect your fingerprint, it's not real. It's fake. So if you don't have record, in other countries they go there, they take DNA. Just strand of your hair is enough to identify the person that has come here to commit a crime. Your footsteps, if you handle any object there, they take it, run it through the DNA. Biometrics, a forensic system, and then they're able to identify with less than 24 hours. Look at what happened in Dubai, URA. The Nigerians that were there to commit, less than 24 hours, they got the pictures and everything. So, but in Nigeria, most of the time, when there's a crime, police come there and arrest everybody in the neighborhood. Most of the time, picking people that are innocent. So, if you don't have an effective security system where criminals could be tapped, then, and also to realize that you cannot also isolate this crisis from the declining economy. The people that we have refused to feed, the people that we have refused to give jobs, the children we have born, we have refused to give them jobs, they will not allow us to sleep. As long as there's poverty, there's corruption, people live beyond their means, people in power, you are inspiring violence, you are inspiring crisis. So there's a link between violence and then economic well-being of the people.
All right, so I have my first caller on the line. Hassan is calling us from Kaduna. Thank you for joining us, Hassan.
Hello?
Yes, thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Go ahead with your contribution, please.
Hello?
Thank you for joining us.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to give a little contribution regarding the insecurity. Huh?
Please do. No, I think that line is not clear. And when you want to see Dari, what we've seen in terms of the states affected now, the way this is, the way it's graduating, and we have military operation in almost 30 states.
And that's the more reason why we should know that it's a serious issue. And the more reason why we should see that no step taken to correct this is actually too much. We just admitted here that before we were looking at just the Northeast. Now we're in the Northwest, having to find answers to a lot of insurgency too, because we call them bandits or brigands. They are fomenting trouble and they are criminals. In other climes, like you said, sir, Mr. President asked somebody to resign. Another person voluntarily left the stage. In Nigeria, for almost 4 years down the line, we have seen no appreciable change in our way of handling the insecurity situation. Yet, the service chiefs are sitting tight. We've had a change in the Inspector General only because it was time for him to go. He reached the retirement age and he had to go. So I think that as part of way forward, sincerely, it's just unfortunate that this is coming at a time when we, including my very good self, cannot trust our lawmakers not to play some hanky-panky games there. It's unfortunate. If we are in a situation where we all can beat our chests and say, no, Mr. President, go, all they will ask you is about insecurity. I'm sure nobody will be bothered about the invitation. But it is just the political underlines that is worrying all of us. The president should be able to go there, tell the lawmakers why he has refused to change his service chiefs. What we are seeing, because I know a lot of people have clamored for a tinkering of this thing. Maybe what we are seeing, he is not seeing. Or what he is seeing, we are not seeing. It will be an opportunity to share notes. Oh, Mr. President, we feel this person should go because of this. And Mr. President will say, oh, no, you didn't see this. This is the reason why I'm keeping them. And at the end of the day, as it is done in other places, there should be some sort of communication coming out of this interface between the presidency and the legislature, which should be able to point us in a particular direction. Good enough, Mr. President is going to have to give us a new set of ministers. He may choose to retain all the old ones. It is his own prerogative. But at a point like this in our history, when there should be some form of change of guard, this kind of interface should be a welcome development. And for me, too, talking about the spate of the virus, why is it spreading? It is spreading because I want to agree with him that nobody is paying for all these lapses. If we just had an election, and some people armed people truly, because this should probably add dead to what we are seeing now. More persons are in possession of illegal arms. And there is no politicking again, no campaign where they can put these things to use. If we have also discovered that there are some sites, mining sites somewhere, that probably are contributing to this problem. I am yet to hear that those sites have been shut down or are currently being protected by our security officials. Why is it difficult for Mr. President to shut down an illegal mining fields? If that has been done, I am sure what is spreading from Zamfara into Katsina gradually and currently embarrassing Mr. President, because what we had is that the abductors of the district head have been nabbed, but the district head himself, his whereabouts, is yet to be known. That's a national embarrassment. It shows that if the home of Mr. President can be easily infiltrated by bandits, then nobody is safe in this country. It is a beautiful scenario, in my own opinion, that we are going to be able, that's if the president goes like you said, see Mr. President explain some things, the lawmakers ask reasonable and necessary questions. But I'm afraid that it may go beyond that. And this should be an opportunity to warn members of the National Assembly that don't rob Nigerians, not Nigerians of today, but Nigerians of the future, of the opportunity to have their president invited by the chambers and questioned. Because if anything goes wrong now, whenever such information comes again, everybody will say it is a trap.
All right, Daryl, we have to leave it there. Now, still to come, 178 members-elect adopt Femi GBAJABIAMILA as the Speaker of the Ninth House of Representatives. Stay with us. It's still Journalist Hangouts. We'll be right back after this time out. Don't go away. Intense shaking of sieves, small pebbles from big ones in a container. After much lobbying and politicking, the contenders and the pretenders in the race for the next Speaker of the House of Representatives are emerging. The governing All Progressive Congress, APC, choice for the position, Femi GBAJABIAMILA, appears to be counting more support in its bid. On Thursday, 178 members-elects of the Green Chamber adopted him as the next Speaker. The adoption was an outcome of a meeting involving lawmakers from different political parties in Abuja. Let's also hear the story from our National Assembly correspondent.
The clock is ticking, and the time for incoming members of the House of Representatives to elect their leaders is closing in. At the end of a far-reaching meeting in Abuja, newly elected members of the House of Representatives rose with one voice, declaring the fifth-term legislator, Femi GBAJABIAMILA, as their choice for Speaker. House of Assembly Speaker in Akwa Ibom State, Onofiok Luke, spoke on behalf of the 178 members-elect, cutting across political parties. He said GBAJABIAMILA remains the only contender with requisite knowledge to lead the 9th House.
And we have resolved today to have come from our different states, from our different constituencies, to say that we have found, as newly elected members, having looked through the credentials and the CV, we have found in Right Honorable Femi GBAJABIAMILA as the man who has the capacity to lead the 9th National Assembly as the Speaker of House of Representatives.
The new members described the House leader as a bridge builder.
The man who will not mortgage the independence of the legislature, but at the same time too will not engage the executive in unnecessary fisticuffs. A man who will build a good relationship between the executive and the legislature, between the legislature and the judiciary. A man who will care about the welfare of Nigerians.
You know that this is the fifth time of Honorable Femi GBAJABIAMILA in the Federal House of Representatives. He's been a minority leader. From there, he transformed into being the majority leader. This is the guy that is capable of holding his own anywhere in the world as a legislator.
GBAJABIAMILA is in the race with the likes of Nkiruka Onyeji-Ocha, a fourth-term member, Chike Okafor from Imo, Abdulrazak Namdas from Adamawa, John Tie from Benue, and Muhammad Bago from Niger State. The 360 members are slated to elect their Speaker and Deputy Speaker next month using a secret ballot system of voting upon proclamation of the 9th Assembly by President Muhammadu Buhari.
Well, I said to myself that until that night's assembly is actually convened and a speaker emerges.
It remains unpredictable.
No, that is the truth.
Because look at Joker used one clause, secret ballot system. Yes, this is for photo ops, for the razzmatazz, 360 members and a lot of intrigues going on the ground. And we have Femi GBAJABIAMILA. It's safe to call him a frontliner. It's convenient. It's convenient. But till then, he lost this race with 8 votes to Yakubu Dogara. And you know how painful it could be. Out of 360, everybody that voted, and he lost with 8 votes. So what are we looking at here?
Basically, GBAJABIAMILA should know that he's on a slippery ground. Slippery ground in the sense that anything can come up. The only thing that you can determine, his stand in the race to be the Speaker of the House is when the people, come out to vote for him. Don't forget, we saw, many people playing to the gallery. About 4 years ago, people, came out, they endorsed Lawa. But what happened at the end of the day? In the case of the Senate, Bukola Saraki went to meet the PDP people, and then they voted for him. And in the case of Dogara, we knew what happened, what Tambuwa did, and other people did as well. And the issue of coming up, with the name of the caliphate, we knew what happened. But basically, what I would rather say is that it should not think that the war is won. It should rather sit tight, talk to the other contenders, try as much as possible to reach out to other parties, the opposition parties. That is the only way, because the war is not over yet.
Well, when I checked the names of the people here, basically they are not of APC stock alone.
Yeah, yeah.
Basically, they had PDP across even from this the speaker. This is the speaker of Akwa Ibom in the PDP states. So, what do you read between the lines?
I think the speaker of North York, Luke, from Akwa Ibom. I think a lot of underground politicking must have gone into this before, you know,
the open endorsement.
You know, they came out to endorse him. With 178, that's a lot of figure. If you can continue on that track. Now, I think what is also important is that GBAJABIAMILA seems to be negotiating from a position of strength. He has been able to draw public commitment from 178 lawmakers. No member of the House of Rep has been able to achieve that. People coming out openly to say, look, we are going to support you. Even though it's going to be secret balloting. But I think to some extent, you can't go into secret balloting without political
horse trading.
Horse trading, So I think he has been able to advance his discourse. And then, speaking on him personally, I think it would be an advantage for the APC to have such a person as the speaker. Because the last 4 years, we had a very acrimonious house that at a point, became a stumbling block to passage of budgets and all sorts of things, with the executive. The two of them were at loggerheads. So I think I have a lot of respect for what the one of them said. We need a House of Rep that is independent, that will not mortgage its independence. At the same time, will not draw unnecessary conflict, unnecessary controversy, in order to seek publicity for the sake of it. So I think he has a better chance. But then, like my friends have said, until the last day, you are not sure of anything, because politicians are very sly, quite unpredictable, and especially when you are in a country where money is involved, corruption, highly corrupt system.
It could be a game changer.
People commit themselves today, but on the day of voting, they do another thing. More so that you are not going to, it's not going to be an open ballot. So we don't know what will happen the night before the election. So it needs to be on guard. It needs to monitor those who have committed themselves to voting for him, because it could actually be a trap. People will have a meeting tonight, then the second night they are going to meet with someone else. So he needs to, sleep with his two eyes open. It's never, nobody is ever sure of anything until we hear the result of the election. Yeah.
Looking at his pedigree, returning to the House for, I think, 5th time, and it's not lack of minority leader speaks well, sponsor crucial bills, and when you talk about experience.
As a lawmaker, by all standards. Yeah. You see, if merit, we are journalists, but don't also forget that we are opinion molders of some sort, and we set agendas. So it's convenient for one to say, from the little we have also gathered, at least I've been covering Nigerian politics for 2 decades now. Sometimes I tell people, no, I'm not a veteran. Because I'm not a veteran because I didn't have the opportunity of covering the last republic. I started just with this republic. So sometimes I restrict myself to what this current republic taught me. And if you are taught by this current republic, in fact, you should be very sharp when it comes to analyzing Nigerian politics, because unlike previous republics, nothing is certain here. There are no permanent allies like we had in the 80s, in the 70s, or in the 50s. And you say, oh, so person is the ally of this individual, and it stays like that. See, what I'm worried about, I should be happy as somebody who wants GBAJABIAMILA, basically on merit, having examined all the contenders sincerely, it fits the bill.
Sure.
Nigeria needs a man, one, who can hold his own. 2, who can ensure that the legislature remain independent, fiercely independent. But also a man who can ensure a good rapport between all the three arms of government. Because as our democracy is maturing, we will have to be enacting a lot of doctrines of necessity to resolve some issues hitherto unprepared for. If you don't have the two arms, legislature and the executive, relating well enough, what we will have in our hands at such crucial moment will be crisis. Instead of just sitting there, I was okay, let's bend the rule if need be and do it this way and get out of this trap. Now, GBAJABIAMILA is the man for that kind of era. But that's why I say I should be happy seeing 178 newly elected. But speaking on behalf of those people is an Onofio Luke, current speaker, Akwa Ibom House of Assembly, and a die-hard loyalist of Governor Emmanuel Udom, a key player in the PDP project. Now, this is my worry. It is either GBAJABIAMILA has found a way of breaking into the PDP finally to say, look, let's choose based on merit, forget these are our party differences. I am here. If you see, look, if truly, sincerely, Onofio is supporting the GBAJABIAMILA agenda, I am telling you, all the House of Reps members from PDP in Akwa Ibom are behind GBAJABIAMILA as we speak. If this, what we see here is what will unfold on that day.
Just don't tell us.
If I'm telling you, on the day of voting, if what is here is what will play out, I can assure you that it simply means Udom is in this, because Onofio will not go against him. A very good SY ally of the former minority leader, Senator Akpabio. But when it became, the chiefs became down and Akpabio went this way, Udom this way, he chose to stay with the governor. And he has spent so many more years with Akpabio before the rift came. That shows you the level of his loyalty to the current governor. So he would not at this time take this decision if Udom is not in it. One, and if Udom is in this, he won't be the only governor of PDP extraction in the South who is on this project. If what we see will play out on that day, GBAJABIAMILA is as good as elected. However, on the flip side, if this is a trap, I don't want to rule it out. I am a little bit pessimistic here. If this is a trap, but I know GBAJABIAMILA and his team too are not pushovers when it comes to politics. They should, I can only say, they should not sleep with two eyes closed while relating with this newfound converts into their team, not into APC.
Well, a new twist to this whole dimension is a member of the All Progressive Congress actually has gone to courts and looking at the, questioning the zoning arrangements and saying that the ruling party has not been fair, especially to the people of the Southeast in this whole arrangement. Deputy Senate President zoned to the South-South, Deputy Speaker zoned to the North-Central, and
you see,
you feel that, look, the people from the Southeast has been shortchanged from this arrangement.
You see, I'm sorry to say it. I want to be truthful to my heart. You see, in Nigeria here, what we do, what we agree to do, what our leader says, the kind of agreement our leaders sign, you know, may determine the fate of many people at the end of the day. You see, the party that decided to pick people across from the zone they picked, they knew what they are doing. I'm sorry to say it. This is the government of APC. But in as much as that is the government of APC, the Constitution is there stipulating what the government should do in terms of appointment and things like that. But the Southeast, what is the contribution of the Southeast to this current APC government? I'm not saying that they are not having very strong people.
Mr. President had more votes there. Mr. President
had in 2015.
Yes, than he had in 2015.
Yes, yes.
Mr. President got 25% from more states.
But what of
apart from Enugu State?
Yes, but
which
what
he didn't
of
get in 2015.
But in terms, what I'm saying is, in terms of the House, in terms of the House,
how many legislators are there for APC from the South?
That is what I'm saying.
You see, let me buttress what you are saying. I've said it on this program before, and on Facebook there were a lot of backlashes. I want to repeat it. We must not mix politics with governance. They are not the same thing.
Yes.
Once we finish politicking, that's when we come and sit down and govern.
Yes.
When you are governing the whole country. Yes. When it's time to appoint ministers and all that, that's government.
Yes, government.
We'll govern the whole country as one. But this House of Assembly, House of Reps, Senate, appointment, is still politicking. And APC is a party that was voted into power through votes. And they will consider the voting pattern in taking this kind of crucial decisions. And also those who are agitating that APC has not given South East something, have they forgotten that PDP is owning the minority positions? So they should give Southeast the majority leader of the House, and the PDP will still give them the minority leader, and they will now have the double portion.
Yes, portion.
Let's be fair. Nobody is hearing that any zone in the north or the southwest is dragging for those minority positions. There is minority leader, there is minority whip, there is minority deputy leader. Those positions too are principal officers, and they are most likely going to go to those areas where PDP did well. I wouldn't expect the PDP to go to the north and pick minority leader.
Wale?
These are facts.
Well, I doubt if that court case will be resolved before the new House will. So I think at the end of the day, it might be an exercise in futility. It's not going to happen.
Academic exercise.
All right. From constant harassment, assaults to killings, it appears journalists are becoming endangered species across the world. But as Nigeria joins the global community to mark this year's World Press Freedom Day, President Buhari said he would ensure that media is not muzzled in any way in the country. In a statement by presidential spokesman Femi Adesina, President Buhari, however, urged journalists to be committed to the ethics that guide the profession and shun fake news. But how apt is this theme for the 2019 edition, Media for Democracy, Journalism, Election, and Election Times of Disinformation in Nigeria? Wale, let me start from you. I know this is your call.
Well, it's a very significant global event which began in 1990, about 26 years ago now, when the United Nations General Assembly declared May 3rd as the World Press Freedom Day, following the Windhoek Declaration. The idea of the UN was to see the media as critical stakeholder in nation building, in good governance, that you can't have democracy without people having access to information. And that in fact, institutions can only be pro-people when the same people that those institutions are governing have access to information. But unfortunately, journalists have passed through very difficult moments. In 2018 alone, 54 journalists were murdered all over the world, because of the fact that they were writing about what is going on.
Not forgetting the gruesome murder of Khashoggi.
So I think what the president has said is significant. We appreciate his solidarity with the media, that he shares the day with us. But we also recognize that our own perspectives are similar in certain areas. For instance, when the president is talking about fake news, media people are also concerned about, the mushrooming of fake media organizations using the media as for parochial ends, for propaganda, for mischief, because people need to be very careful. If we don't do our job professionally, we can set this country on fire. So when you go to the social media, people are abusing the fact that the IT has created a world without border, without visa. I don't need visa to go and cover a story in Ghana. I can write my story from my bedroom. But we need to be very careful, especially in Nigeria, where people are increasingly abusing this opportunity. 5 people killed in Zamfara, 90 people killed in Sokoto State, some Igbo people have been murdered. All those kind of things will have impact on the stability of this country. But then we must not forget that a country where moral values are on the decline, where there's distrust, where there's so much no dignity of the human person. The social media that will emerge from that kind of society will not be different from the character and form of that society itself. So, but I think the mainstream media should continue to do its job, should not be blackmailed. At the end of the day, people are seeing the difference between The Nation, Punch, Guardian, and other newspapers that are not really, standing on the path of truth. So increasingly, people are trying to isolate the good media, from the gutter media, and that's why when you go on Facebook, on IT, people will tell you they will just delete them. People don't want to receive information from them. So the society itself, the media itself can self-regulate itself if people continue to shun out fake media. And I think the NUJ also has a very important role to play, the Ethics Committee and then the Nigerian Press Organization, to ensure that we find a solution. Press Council, a solution to this increasing rate of fake journalism, which is quite prominent in Nigeria.
Everybody is a potential journalist on the social media now.
Social media.
That's journalism without border, like not said here. But on a day like this, sincerely, this morning when I woke up and I saw this happy press day thing, my mind went to people like him, who today are largely involved in what I'll call media, is it agitation now or something like that. You see, it's getting better because of organizations like his. Today, I had the reason to visit a police station. A relative has been in detention since yesterday. And from the tales from his wife, it was like he had no reason being there. I told my wife, okay, on my way to work, I'll go there. My wife said, please don't go. The first thing policeman will do when he realizes you are a journalist to brutalize you. I said, I'll be careful. And true to what she said, I had that at the back of my mind because we are more or less an endangered species. You want to intervene in a matter as a journalist, and the first thing is that you are a suspect. It has happened times without number. You are covering an event and you are also manhandled. So, but when I got there, I met an officer who also is very conscious of the changing times. The DPO there was at Pedro Police Station. Immediately I got there, I didn't waste time introducing myself because of the scenario. And so he stood up, welcomed me very well, and said, we are even colleagues. Your job and mine is not different. And today is even a World Press Freedom Day. I sat down, very relaxed. He listened to me, and he said, you see, the problem is that people don't understand the rigors we go, you journalists and we police. I left the place really, really impressed. But why is it, how is it, what brought about this change in them? It is the constant agitation and orientation being made by organizations. And I think in the interest of we journalists, we can save the situation for ourselves. It appears that everybody is waiting for us to report their own incident. Everybody is waiting for us to tell the world what they are going through. But when we go through anything, nobody do the talking. And then sadly too, we also don't talk about ourselves. Until programs like Journalists Vanguard came on, we're always behind the scene. You see, now there should be more efforts on the part of organizations like that's Journalists for Democratic Rights. Jordan, to tell our own stories, our struggles, our worries, so that the world will know this is what we are going through. Because if nobody is letting them understand that we're endangered species, everybody will think we are the hunters to most people. But in some circumstances, we turn the hunted. And when we are hunted, nobody cares to find out how our case ends. So we are happy Mr. President remembered us today. We are happy he spoke about our plight, but he should do more. And decided he should do more.
In the line of our duty, we've, at Zado's Beats, we've lost so many prominent journalists in Nigeria, talking about daily viewers of this world, Bagata Cartels of this world, and a lot of other guys. And when you look at it, how free is the environment getting better for journalists to practice as in Nigeria?
You see, that is a very big question to answer. A big question in the sense that, you see, a society will always get the kind of journalists they create, not necessarily the kind of journalists that want to change the society. We have many people changing the society. Is the society helping the journalists to do their job? I would rather say that the environment is still contrived. It's not as fluid as it ought to be. What I would rather say is that, you see, governments, politicians, the people that can give us the fluidity to do our job should do what they ought to do. And those people that felt that, look, we are trying to create a kind of unnecessary attention for ourselves by trying to look into what they are doing, should please understand that, look, we are doing our job. And it's stated in the Constitution, we should do the job we're supposed to do. You say you mentioned Kato, you mentioned Delegiwa. What about other journalists that were killed and they are not celebrated?
Nobody's talking about them.
You see, and aside that, the kind of environment we work, do you know how many journalists that got home and died as a result of hypertension?
Fatigue.
Fatigue, stress, and lack of payment of salary. You see, look, I'm sorry to say it, we are yet to get to where we're supposed to get.
Wale, on the party shot on this?
Well, Nigerians should remember that the founding fathers of Nigerian nationalism were journalists. Zik, Awo, Enahoro, NSECURITY, Abat Macaulay. And that in the terms of spreading information, Nigerian journalists actually began that campaign in 1859 when the first newspaper was published in this country. So, yeah, Iweroyin. So I think we have paid our dues, and we are not going to let Nigerians down.
You mentioned the area we obviously cannot live here without talking about welfare. It's crucial. If we look at the welfare of Nigerian journalists, it's still a far cry from what it should be. And I will just use this opportunity of the newly signed into law minimum wage. It should also rub off on journalists, media workers. We all go to the same market as other workers. So we should be adequately remunerated too. Then our working environment, people should look at it. When you go abroad and you go to some media houses, you feel like staying back to see greener pastures. But back home, we can replicate those things. We are seeing some stations doing it. I saw a smile on your face.
It's the yearning.
It changed. Things changed around here.
It's like CNN studio.
Yeah, I can see.
I want to thank you, Bola OLAJUWON. Thank you. Happy World Press Freedom Day.
Thank you, my brother.
And also want to thank you, Wale ADEOYE.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Dari Odufoko. And I think we have to send a get well message to one of us, Mr. Tunde Abaton. Tunde Abaton has been under the weather for some time, and he's one of our resource persons here in Journalist Hangout. Get well soon, sir. And that's our offering this week on Journalist Hangout. Join us next week for another episode of the program. You can watch the repeat broadcast tonight at 11. You can also watch Journalist Hangout on other platforms showing on the screen. We're also on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalist Hangout at tvcnews.tv. I'm Ayodele Ozubakum. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. God bless Nigeria.